Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another video. Today, I have maybe the most bizarre video I will ever make, but there might be something here, there might not. First things first, this is not financial advice, will never be financial advice. This is opinion content only, and I am most certainly not a licensed financial advisor. Now, put on your tinfoil hats and let's dive into if Roaring Kitty has been here the entire time. And yes, I do not subscribe to the tinfoil. What are you doing, Reese Politics? Well, I'm simply delivering what I think is a very interesting theory and message from Richard Newton, who, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, and Richard Newton, blah, 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 GME contributor, daily contributor for a few years now. Post 2021 squeeze, Richard Newton brought a lot of good data and ideas and models and theory to the GME community. He is no longer posting daily videos on YouTube, but he is active a little bit here and there on X, where I found this very interesting theory. So many people were speculating, and let me start from scratch here, that Richard Newton's account was hacked. It was acting weird lately. There were some very weird things. He started following this weird account, which we'll get to in a minute. And essentially, he's kind of gone down the tinfoil rabbit hole. But when it comes to Richard Newton, I have to cover it because he's the one that really popularized the model. And I think it's worth some look into. Now, would I ever, and reminder, I don't do the tinfoil. I would never, ever, ever, ever make a financial decision based on the tinfoil. But this could be where Roaring Kitty has been the entire time, and he still might be right here in the room with us, to use a classic GME expression. Now, National Cat Day, I made a post that nothing happened and there wasn't anything of interest on National Cat Day, right? He didn't show up, but a few people on Superstock noticed that there were some interesting after hours drawing on National Cat Day, October 29, and then again around 4:20 Eastern, that was on National Cat Day, and then a little bit later in the evening on October 30th, where people noted this drawing. And again, you're probably looking at this squinting, thinking, what is this guy doing? What is he talking about? People are saying that this is kind of a dog chasing a cat. And yes, this is where we are with GameStop, but it is, you'll trust me, you just got to hang in there a little longer. It does look like a dog chasing a cat when people draw the animation. Now, would Roaring Kitty waste his time doing this? Would he waste his money doing this? I don't know. The guy's got hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. He can do whatever he wants with his money. That's not my business. So maybe there, I wouldn't dismiss that entirely. So Richard Newton starts posting about this, and he makes a meme. You know, there's the cat. There's the one on Cat Day that looks very similar to a cat. I mean, if you're being honest, it looks very similar. So, and then Richard Newton posts a picture of himself to make sure, yes, this is really him. I've not been hacked. Okay, fine, you're not hacked. But the theory here, and we'll get to the CHWY stuff in a minute, Richard Newton is following this one account named the Roaring Puppy. Obviously, this is not the Roaring Kitty now, the name, but Richard Newton's saying, because Roaring Kitty's previously used a moniker in Avocado in my, I'm not going to say it, you know what it is, on Reddit, that he might be using this Roaring Puppy moniker. And again, I think this is a bit of a stretch here. Let me know in the comments what you think below, if this is legit, if this is crazy. The only problem I have with this is that it is promoting an NFT and a crypto coin, which I am not endorsing. I would never, ever, ever endorse a potential scam. I only invest in GME, but you know, I'm just showing you that this is a thing that Richard Newton is the one account that he's following. If you click through the link, it takes you to this Linktree site where you can go to the website. It's got all this thing here, the Roaring Puppy, Revenge of the Kitten. And let's go to the site together and see what it is. Once upon a time, there was a kitten so smart and sly. It loved to play games with hedgehogs and wolves. They lost and got shamed as the kitten evolved. And you can click through this and start the quest, and it is pretty interesting. It says currently we're in Act 1, so you can read here, once upon a time there was a kitten so smart and sly it never got bitten. It loved to play games with hedgehogs and wolves. They lost and got shamed as the kitten evolved. And then it says, through treats, where big and dangerous were near. The kitten had fun, enjoying the fear, but things got serious, and the enemies big, using their power to treating the kitten. Now, that's a typo there, and Roaring Kitty's very particular. I don't think he would put a typo in there. That's my one comment about maybe this is not real. Anyway, it kind of gives a story about we're still in Act 1 and this, that, and the other. And it does use the dog emoji that was associated with Roaring Kitty's emoji timeline dating back to May of 2024, where he literally telegraphed weeks in advance that he was going to go into CHWY. That was the next play. And if we want to bring it back to earth here from the tinfoil nonsense, I mean, there might be something here. But if we want to bring it back to earth, there is some semblance and resemblance between CHWY and GME. And I found a post on Reddit, which I'll show you guys in a minute too, very interesting about potential CHWY and GME swaps that Roaring Kitty might have been alluding to this whole time. I am not a swap expert. I am not going to pretend to be a swap expert. I do think it's interesting, however. But you can see here, this is the GME chart in red and classic red and green. And then the blue chart, this is the CHWY fractal. Now, you can see that this pattern pretty much matches tick by tick, with the exception of this area here where it goes inverse. And this is the exact time where Roaring Kitty, flipped the script and went into CHWY, had CHWY, and then dumped his CHWY right out here. And we don't really know what he's doing now. I also have another couple other theories about him also being in Unity, the gaming stock. But that's neither here nor there. I think there might be a basket swap related to that as well. I am not endorsing any of these things. These are just theories. So you can see the chart really matches up with CHWY. And so going back to this Act 1 sort of thing in the website, it still says we are in Act 1. There's Unleashing the Masked Puppy in Act 2. Act 3 is coming up. And the final act, which is called Checkmate, is also coming up. So I have no idea if this is legit or not. Richard Newton's obviously down this rabbit hole. I'll pull up his explanation of it as well, just to give maybe a little bit of clarity on what he's seeing here. He said, my logic following the account I did, which is talking about the Roaring Puppy, is that Roaring Kitty self-identified his nom de plume, his moniker, alias, whatever you want to call it, in his May 2024 memes as the Reddit avocado account. We know which we're talking about there. The account posted on the following dates: 10/29, 10/29, 10/29, 3 years in a row at 420. There was interesting activity on GME around those dates: November 3, 21, October 31, 22, and November 29, 23. It's a little bit late, but he's saying that he'll take it. On October 29, 24, everybody was waiting for the post from the, nom de plume, but we got the 13G, as I noted in my video the other day about CHWY. So there's a connection here. Then this year, everybody waited for avocado post or another, kind of cat meme. Nothing happened, but there was that cat graphic, which I showed you guys earlier, on Robinhood tick by tick chart in after hours. So he's thinking, what if Roaring Kitty is still not a cat, like it said on his 13G, essentially, and he is basically either still doing something with dog stock or something along the lines of he's with us here, but there's still things at play. So Richard Newton, I think, is essentially saying, and he's confirming that he was not hacked multiple times. He put another little proof of life thing here with his Bible verse of the day. But he pulls up that there are some interesting dates between GME swap and bottom finder indicators from Ultimator and GameStop. And he put the fractal there as well. It looks extremely, extremely similar. There's obviously a connection outside of the fact that Ryan Cohen founded CHWY, and now Ryan Cohen is the chairman and CEO of GameStop. What is my personal read on this? Well, I'm going to put up this portfolio swaps between GME and unknown stocks, including CHWY, as a post here, and not to say that this is concrete what Roaring Kitty figured out. I'm sure he's light years ahead of where I am, of where other people are. He is a different mind when it comes to investing. So if I'm going to give any sense of credibility to a theory or anything that involves Roaring Kitty, I have to be very humble and say I am not in his playing field, and I don't know if I ever will be. I aim to be, but don't know if I'll get there. Anyway, this is types of OTC equity derivatives. Derivatives and swap products can involve total return swaps. They can involve portfolio return swaps, where you literally have one leg can be a portfolio of energy stocks, while leg two can be a portfolio of tech stocks. If one portfolio would outperform the other, the leg of the better performing portfolio pays the difference of that performance to the other leg. So these are all kinds of swaps. This person identified QSIPs, which are identifier codes. They don't use typical tickers in swaps. More often than not, they use QSIPs. So they use identifiers. This is from the DTCC DDR database, the swap database. And there's a lot of similar notional amounts between leg one and leg two values. And he basically, and this is too high level to deep dive in. I wanted to make this a bit of a shorter video today. But essentially that there is some interesting activity to CHWY right around the same dates as some of these GME swaps popping up. They list May 3rd, 2025, May 9th, May 29, 2024, and June 26, 2024, all as potential swap activity markers on both of those underlying stocks. So, you know, I think that there is some validity here. I think that this could be the connection between GameStop and CHWY's probably swaps. I think in terms of finding the absolute all-knowing perfect post that summarizes here's exactly what happening, I think that's a long shot. I hope by talking about this, by commentating about this theory, that there's someone smarter than me, I'm sure many people are, that are able to find the exact link here. But, you know, tinfoil aside, I think we can all agree that this looks very similar. Price is fractal by nature, and this fractal looks extremely similar to GameStop. So there is something there. CHWY now, you can see, I'll delete this CHWY fractal that I copied to GME. Interesting timing though on the daily. You can see a peak here in June, right before the GME second bond offering, by the way, guys. And it's down 30% from there. Okay, if you go to GME and you look at the peak, let's delete the CHWY fractal for the time being. If you look at the peak here, this is in late May, right? Down 36% over the span. And that's with a bond offering, and that's with warrant dividends being announced. So if you go from kind of the exact date of the CHWY swap, it goes down the exact time. Now, we did get this earnings blip for GameStop. For CHWY, you know, you got some of that price action, I guess, as well. You got a big up to 30%, 25% or so to the upside. GameStop, if you look at it, I mean, it's starting to become eerily similar, and you get about 25%, 24 for 25% to the upside. I mean, the link is very eerily similar. I read through more X comments that Richard Newton might be insinuating that now CHWY is going to run pretty hard, and that could be. I'm not getting involved in CHWY. I'm not getting involved in Unity. I'm comfortable in GameStop. I would rather, if I'm going to make trades, guys, I would rather have GameStop pop up to 30 something, sell covered calls or buy cash secured puts, and do it that way. I wouldn't want to be unloading my bag and jumping into CHWY and jumping into Unity, which are both up a little bit today, coincidentally. But that's just kind of what I'm thinking. And, you know, tying this back into the non-tinfoil thing, and then don't do hype dates and this and that. Last thing I want to say is, if you're just looking at the data and Richard Newton's model, it may or may not be broken. We don't know. The most important thing is, if we see a price spike up into the 30s in the next few weeks, based off the fails to deliver logic, that would be very encouraging for the state of the model. Now, this is a slightly different model that someone on Reddit kind of took Richard Newton's formula and plugged in their own metrics, and we get this. Looks pretty accurate so far, but again, we will see. If the model breaks, I think then we're kind of back at square one, where we need to examine more about these CHWY swaps, about these derivative products that just aren't, there's not much information. There's not much white papers on. And I think that's probably for good reason. They don't want us to know what's going on with some of these things. Short-term price action wise, I think it's very believable. And let me put my personal spin on it too. I think it's very believable what Richard Newton's saying. The only thing I think is odd is that it's associated with an NFT and a crypto kind of you have to link your Solana address and mint one of these NFTs. I think that doesn't really fit Roaring Kitty's MO. So that I would say question, but let me know if you guys think in the comments. Definitely think though that there is a legitimate connection between CHWY and GameStop. We all, I think, kind of are aware of that. But short-term price action here to end on this note. I am not changing my drawing. If I would be a betting man, I would say that swap expired October 30th. Fails to deliver, can be cleared now. There's a bunch coming in for October 31. Bear beware, you're in for a scare. And then next week, the first week in November looks pretty good. So we will see. We will see. Again, I am not and will never be making financial decisions of any magnitude on this data. I trust the data still. I think the model is a little bit early and did not factor in one or two swaps. And if you guys are like, what are you talking about? Late October swaps. I have a very early video that I put out. I think I had one for X subs too. It was like early October. I'm like, this looks like a swap. But if you go back in the chart, if you don't feel like going back to watch other videos, that's fine. To October of 2023, this same dump in price, super deep low before rocketing out of there, and almost to the exact day, okay, you get a low here. There you go, October 30, and then October 31, you rocket out. So, very potential swap. Same thing in 2024. This could be a one-year swap roll that Richard Newton missed starting in 2023. So there's credibility there. That's what I would expect for GME price. But again, more interested in this kind of higher level. What the heck is Roaring Kitty doing? I think he's been here all along. I think he's still in GME. And if he's not at GME, I think whatever he's working on with CHWY or Unity or whatever, DJT, who knows? I think it's tied to GME, and I think it would eventually cause a problem for someone big that might be short GME. So I think it would all, point being, come back to GameStop. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let's get some good discussion going. As always, have a great day. Go GameStop, and don't go too heavy into the tinfoil, but this was certainly fun. Take care, everybody.